Hump Day Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in today. Of course, welcome to all my new subscribers, those for clicking on this video. If this is your first time here, I upload every Sunday and Wednesday, twice a week, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Feel free after you watch this video to go ahead and thumbs up the video, and don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that bell so you do not miss an upload. So as you can tell by the title, I am coming in with some tips. There are, I believe I have 10. They will not be in any particular order, but I did save the last thing for last because it is the most important. So that might be the last one that is just going to put everything, round everything out for you today. So I want to share with you some of the things that I have learned during my sewing journey, real quick and brief. My sewing journey started when I was much younger. My mother taught me to sew. I remember in 8th grade doing a fashion show with a couple outfits. I made a dress and different stuff like that. And then of course throughout the years, from high school, college, and after, you know, dabbled here and there. But then I got back into it full blown about 9 years ago now. And so yeah, about 9 years ago now. And so I make everything I wear, and I'm happy to do that. I do not supplement my handmade garments with ready to wear. It will be a rare occasion that I do. Maybe it's a panties that I need real quick, a bra, something like that. But I make all of those things as well. So just so you have just a little bit of my background, my sewing journey. And so yeah, that's where I wanted to start there. All right, let's get into it. What are some things that I learned as along my sewing journey? And I would say these are some top 10 perhaps takeaways that I came up with to share with maybe newer sewers. Maybe you're beginning your sewing journey, haven't thought of these things, or maybe you have, and maybe you can share it with somebody else, so consider sharing it. So let's jump into it. So number one, and I'll try to make sure I keep this number here. Number one, the selvage. What is the selvage edge of fabric? This is very important because, especially if you're sewing with knit or if you're making a bra pattern, because you want to make sure those pattern pieces that's meant to stretch the longest, especially for a bra, you want to make sure you are cutting that in the longest, where it stretched the most, because that's what's going over your body. So you want to make sure you know what the selvage is and that you're laying the fabric out right. So I have picked a woven and a knit, just real quick so you understand what I'm saying. So when you get the fabric off the bolt, or when you are at Joann Fabrics, they have it on the bolt and you get it off the bolt, so it's already, you know what is the selvage based on at the counter. But perhaps you ordered and got fabric in the mail and you're like, okay, what's the selvage? So this fabric has already been washed, and so this is the cut edge. So the cut edge is where you see my serge. So the width of this fabric is 45 inches wide. So I have it folded in half, and the cut edge is the serged edge. Now, when I open it up, that is the full length of the fabric, and then you have the selvage edge. And typically the selvage edge it has a little bit of a raised edge where you can tell it is more smooth than the cut edge. The cut edge is frayed. You can tell that edge has been cut. And so that is what the selvage edge would be. And I will pop up a clip. You should have seen a clip pop up where you can see what the selvage edge looks like versus what the cut edge looks like. And that is on woven. On knit, it is the same thing. Now, I do not serge. I pre-wash all of my fabric. That's just me. I know everybody doesn't do that, but I do. I pre-wash all my fabric. Any chemicals, any smell or anything like that from it being in, you know, whatever stock or whatever is cleaned out. That's just my personal preference. But same thing with the knit. You will also find with the knit, now it's a little easier to tell on the knit, and again, I'll pop up a video. The selvage is curled, and you can see like these, it looks like it's left staple marks. And again, you'll see in the video here on the selvage edge, that's the selvage edge. The selvage edge, when you wash, you typically, for most fabric I've worked with, you don't have to serge that. And the only reason I serge the edge of woven is so it doesn't ravel, and you have all of this extra hanging thread all in the wash. And if you have an agitator in your wash machine, that can cause problems. I've experienced that, where if I didn't serge the edge of denim or some kind of woven fabric, it has raveled, and now you have all these ravel pieces in your wash machine, and it's wrapped around your agitator, and then you have to carefully try to unwrap it around the agitator or cut those loose threads in order to get the fabric out of the wash machine. My current washer is a high definition one, so it doesn't have an agitator in it, this particular one, and so I don't have to worry about that, but I still serge. That's just me. I like to serge my edges again because I just don't want all that raveling going on in the wash machine. Number 2, this is again, not in any particular order, but this is probably something you've heard many times before. There is a difference between your ready-to-wear sizing as well as your body measurements. Now, having said that, Sandra Betzina in particular, and there is one other, I cannot think, it's a Butterick pattern. I cannot think of who that designer, I see her face, but those are 2 that I know put ready-to-wear sizing on their patterns. They put body measurements, and then they equate it to the body measurements that they have to ready-to-wear sizing. And so those are the only exceptions that I've seen in commercial, those 2. But typically, and even with that, go off of your body measurements as much as you can before, as long as you're not seeing any major fluctuations in your weight, you can pretty much go with your measurements, full, your full bust. You've seen measurement chart, measure all of the common areas that's on the pattern, but also don't forget to measure your upper bust. And the reason I say that is because for me, even though I measure my full bust, my upper bust is like 6 inches smaller. And so when I'm making patterns, I have learned over the years that I need to grade my pattern smaller up here because I'm smaller up here, and then grade out that will fit over the measurements of my full bust. Same thing when you get to the waist and the hip. You might have to do some grading in your pattern. For those who don't know, might be new to my channel, I've said this many times. One of the things that I have come to learn over the years when I was making things earlier and they weren't fitting properly and different stuff like that, or I would buy patterns just because I like the pattern, not necessarily paying attention to the sizing. And even if I got the largest size pack for some commercial patterns, it didn't fit my measurements. And so early on, a few years back, I would think, oh, I'm gonna have to grade up this pattern and in order for it to fit. You all know I am a staunch believer. I stand on this and continue to stand on this. I don't believe in grading up patterns. If it stops at a certain measurement, I'm not grading it up to fit me. Now, if I fall within measurements, I'll grade between sizing, but I'm not grading up a pattern to fit me. That means for me, that pattern is not for me. So I'm not getting ready to try to, fuss and everything with it. I'm not gonna hold her down and say, look, you're gonna fit me, so we're gonna grade you up to go across my body. That's personally something I do not do. Now, I know many people do, and if that is you, bravo, but not for me. That is not something that I do. Wearing ease. This is number 3. There is a difference between wearing ease and design ease. And so with the wearing ease, you definitely want to make sure you take in consideration movement in the garment. How you lift, depending on what, obviously this depends on the garment that you're making, but when you raise your hands, when you sit down, you know, whatever you need to do to make sure that it is fitting you properly. Every pattern comes with a certain amount of design ease. So you've seen fitted tees, you've seen circle skirts, or you've seen more voluminous type dresses, bodycon. So there is a certain design ease that's built into it. This is the way it's designed to be. And then there's that wearing ease. What's comfortable for you, sitting, standing, reaching, you know, whatever, so to make sure you get the fit. Now, here is where I don't think I have this on here, but make sure, yes, I don't have this on here, but I'm going to include this in the wearing and design ease. Make a muslin. And this kind of goes into that whole measurement body, measuring your body as well. Make a muslin for perhaps things that you're not quite sure. You see the design ease, you see the wearing ease, you think it'll be comfortable. If it's your first time making that particular garment, go ahead and do a muslin. Your muslin can be in a muslin, for those who don't know, is a mock-up. You can wear it wearable, make it wearable, meaning, okay, I'm gonna make it out of some not so precious fabric, but fabric that I have in my stash. I'm gonna make it, see what do I need to, I'm gonna go through the whole instructions, construction, everything, not making any changes, and see what I need to do. You can do it that way, right? And making a muslin. But those are things you definitely want to consider in that whole picking your pattern, picking your fabric, and all of that. Number 4, needles. Needles, this is so important. There is actually a needle chart, a free needle chart that you can download on from Wawak. And I'll try to remember to leave the link to it in the description box, but you should be able to go out there and they have a free needle guide. So if you didn't know what type of needle to use for a particular project, you have that guide. But use your knit needles for knit and your woven for woven. I have experienced on many occasions pricking, and the size, not just the type of needle, knit for knit, woven for woven, but the size needle. Because the larger the needle is, and if you're just using the same needle to cut all, say to sew up all your wovens, but you're working with say a Georgette, something much lighter, something a little bit more drapey, you're going to be poking large holes in your garment. You don't want that. You want to use something a little bit more smaller for your garment. And so making sure that you use the right needle is not so much the right needle, knit for knit, woven for woven, denim for denim, leather for leather, you know, that type thing. But the size of the needle is important. And so, like I said, Wawak does have a free needle guide down, and I'll leave it linked down in the description box. Download it, and so you have it for your own personal reference. I'm sure you can also Google out there. There are so many resources, but I do know off the top of my head that Wawak does have a needle guide. Number 5, heat bond. You all know I love me some heat bond. Why do I love heat bond? Because I struggle for so long with doing, so when you do collars and you have to turn down I can actually show you an example. Hold on. Okay, I ran to get a top. Can't show you the whole thing because I haven't shared it on the channel, but this is a collar that needed to be turned under and stitched down. Typically here is where it's hard for me to, you know, keep it down before I need to stitch down. Heat bond, I would lay that right up under there, press it down, and then stitch over that area. When I tell you heat bond has been a lifesaver, I also do it if I have a facing, maybe a front facing piece or something like that, and after I've sewn it in and I wanted to stay in place, I would put the heat bond in that area as well. It just depends on the garment. I don't do it for everyone. But when I tell you heat bond is a saver, it is. It saves so much time. And if you're fiddly, you know, those little fiddly areas like me, you need a little help. So the heat bond definitely helps. Now, there are times I've used the heat bond and have not stitched it down, especially in waistband pieces, because that's another place I use it too, in skirt or dresses that have that facing piece for the waistband. And I've washed it and it hasn't moved. It hasn't, you know, left or anything or peeled. I haven't experienced that at this point. But, and I purchased it from, you can get it obviously off of Amazon, but Joann Fabrics, you know, different stuff like that. So definitely heat bond is your friend. So number 6, all knits are not created equal. Whew, knits. I tell you, that is one thing. I have no preference for sewing knits over wovens or anything like that. Whatever the pattern calls for, I'm happy to sew it up in that particular fabric substrate. But I will say for knits, one of the big things I have learned about knit is that they are not all created equal. Meaning, I have used some knits, I would say there's a quality grade to different types of knit. So you have some polyester knits, which I particularly have been trying to get away from using just because I live in Texas. It's hot in Houston, and wearing polyester, you know, nothing like feeling like you're a match about to light up walking down the street, right? And so I try to stay away from the polyester type. So that's your ITYs. And not all ITYs are feel that polyestery, but if that's a word, that's not a word, I know. But you do have to ensure that, you know, the knit that you're working with obviously works for the project, but there are some knits that drag or drop in wear. And I've had pieces, I don't have anything in my closet now, but I have had pieces, garments that I have made, tank dresses, where the fabric, it was a cheaper fabric, and it just grew and grew and grew, like it kept getting longer, and I'm having to cut the bottom, and it was just the nature of the quality of the fabric. I didn't cut it, you know, on the wrong, you know, the wrong direction or anything like that. It was just the nature of the fabric. It just continued to grow and grow. And so I tend to just over the years, I've just switch to the types of knits that I purchase. Is typically more your cotton knit, is typically more of that has maybe a rayon knit, which is a little bit more drapey, something like that. But yeah, those are some of the types of knits. I'm just giving examples so you understand what I'm saying. But not all knits are created equal, and that goes hand in hand with number 7. Create your swatch book. That is one thing that helped me, that truly helped me. This is my swatch book. As you can tell, it is pretty thick. Lots of fabrics in here that I've bought from so many online shops, right? And what I do is I typically cut, you know, have the fabric swatch, put it in here right where I got it from. And if it has a sticker, it's really nice if it comes with a sticker or a label or something on it, then I can just put the fabric right up underneath it. See, something like that. Put it right up underneath it and right on there. And if it's something I don't like or wouldn't use again, I sometimes will write a note there, do not repurchase, or I just go back to it and flip and say, okay, yeah, I didn't like that. Don't buy that. Because I have a swatch, I can refill it, right? If it's been a while and I just don't remember. But having a swatch book really also helps in your sewing journey. If you go to, say you're a person who like to feel stuff first, going to Joann's, going to Hobby Lobby, going to Walmart, all of those different type of places that sell fabric, and get you, see if some places do swatches, other places don't. You might have to buy just a little bit so you know the fabric, the substrate, the feel of it, how you would like it. And then make sure you write down the description of it so you can put it in your swatch book. It might have a weight of the fabric. Denim come in different weights. The lighter weight denims from your heavier weights and all of that. And so you can put that in your swatch book so you know, say, okay, you are at your local fabric store in your area, but you don't see what you want. Then when you go searching online with the description, you know what you like or don't like or what you're pretty much looking for, then order it. Then you're able to order it online and feel pretty comfortable with what you are ordering. That doesn't always work in your favor. Sometimes we all have experienced it. Order fabric online and it's like, okay, this is not what I expected, or this is, ooh, this doesn't feel good. You know, we all experience that. So you will have some of those experiences in your sewing journey that, you know, you ordered something or some fabric, it just absolutely did not work out. And that's okay. It's all part of the journey. You kind of live and learn those lessons, right? Number 8. Now this may apply more so to my plus size ladies that are sewing, even if you're sewing for a plus size person in general. My biggest takeaway for number 8 is, if you're going to shop online, stick to those stores that have 58-inch wide or wider, maybe 55 of fabric. I tend to like to shop for my fabric, if I'm shopping online, to shop from those stores that have wider width fabric, because I'm larger size, and when I'm cutting out, say, a dress, a skirt, and it swings out or something like that, I need to be able to have enough fabric to take up that, whatever, if it's an A-line or if it's, you know, multiple pieces, something like that, to be able to cut it out comfortably without thinking like, oh, it's not wide enough, what am I gonna do? And that still can happen from time to time, but for the most part, you are good to go with those shops that have that 58 or 55 or wider range. Now, I have shared previously different fabric stores. I have a video I did a few years ago. I know I need to update the video, but it's still relevant, of top 10 online shops. I'll put it in the description box down below, but I'll also add to it Fabric Wholesale Direct, which I've been ordering from them more frequently over the past couple years. But they're also another one. I'll link them down below. But save yourself, unless you don't mind. Some people don't mind figuring out how to place their fabric, their pattern pieces on maybe 45 width fabric and different things like that. I don't particularly like to fuss around like that. Give me the width that I need so I can do what I need to do and get this project done. But and if you order Ankara, now Ankara is only 45 inches wide, but with Ankara you can just turn the direction of the fabric to get out what you need to sew. That's what I do with Ankara, because I do sew with Ankara, and no, Ankara does not come in for larger width fabrics, just the 45 for the cotton that I typically order. So keep all of that in mind. Number 9, change the needles in your machine frequently. One of the things that I used to experience a lot getting back into sewing and everything is I used to hear a thumping noise when I would sew. And it's because I didn't sew like 15 different projects using the same needle. Now granted, if it's a woven, maybe it's not 15 woven projects back to back, but what I used to do is, okay, I'm switching out my needle because I'm getting ready to sew up a knit project. But instead of disposing of the needle, I will put the needle in my needle holder. So for those who are not familiar with the needle holder, that's what this is. This is a needle holder. And as you can tell, it has the different size needles and types and everything on here. And you just put in a pin to indicate which needle that you're currently using. If you have not seen this, I'll leave a link to this in my description box. It's in my Amazon store. But sometimes what I would do is, yes, I would do this, take the needle out, put it in my needle holder, right? And switch it to the knit needle. And then I would just go back and start using the woven needle for like multiple projects. Y'all, now we hear that thump, 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 thump. Or it's snagging or something like that. This is for knit or woven. You guys, yeah. I had to get out of that habit. It was a habit that I had that, yeah. Same with your serger. Also consider with your serger, depending on the type of projects that you are working on, especially if you're experiencing your serger needles breaking frequently or snagging or doing something like that. Obviously, you're checking all the mechanical functions on it to make sure that's not it. But you will have to switch out your serger needles as well if you have a serging machine. Same thing goes for if you have a cover stitch. You know, just switch out your needles frequently. How often? It depends on how often you sew and what type of projects you are making. You might need to dispose of them every 2 to 3 projects, depending on what it is that you're making. It may need to be you worked on denim, a heavy denim project. Maybe it's jeans or jacket or something. After that one project, dispose of the needle. How are you disposing of your needles? For me, I have an old spice jar. You can see that spice jar here with the little holes in the top. I just dropped my needles in here, and oddly enough, I don't know why I had, oh, you know what, I couldn't find this because I'm thinking, why isn't this filled up? There was a time where I couldn't find this, and I put needles I was disposing of in a different container, which is over there. And so I actually need to put all those in here. And I understand that you can take these to a pharmacy and dispose of the needles there, or at your local, maybe you go to a doctor's appointment. You know how they have the little needle, I think it's for diabetics. You can maybe, I don't know, check with your doctor's office, check with your pharmacy to see if they will take old needles. And so I've just been collecting them until I do that. So yes, that is tip number 9. The final tip that I have for you today, and this again, this 10 is not all inclusive. There's so much more that obviously I can share, I'm sure. But the biggest thing, the biggest tip, please be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Okay, that project didn't work out. Oh, that was a sewing fail, or you decided to try to make a garment or an item thinking you knew what you were doing and it just did not turn out. You wanted to do something different. Be patient with yourself. Be patient that, okay, you don't know everything, or sometimes we get used to doing things so many times and we just think, oh, I'm just going to do how I've always done it. But for that particular project, how you always done it does not work. And you need to just follow what the instructions say. You can make modifications to the process after the fact. Maybe it's going a roundabout way or something like that. That is okay. But be patient with your growth and your learning. Watch a lot of YouTube University. So many YouTubers out here that sew. Also sewing, different sewing, online sewing courses that you can take that's out there. There's so many options available to you. Sewing resources, sewing books. I can do another video if you are interested on the sewing resources that I recommend, from books to classes, things like that. Let me know. I'll do a separate video. Maybe we can do that for October. But yeah, be patient with yourself. And as a person that, what level would I consider myself? Advanced. I've made the coats, I've made the jeans, I've, you know, done all of those things. Maybe that puts me in the advanced category. But for me, there's still much that I need to learn. There's different tailoring techniques I would like to learn, different interfacings I would like to become more familiar with to give a better end result to jackets, to denim, to different garments and different projects that I work on. So for me, it's sewing in my mind is an ongoing journey. There's always something new to learn. There's always different projects to try and different things like that. So for me, it's an evolving journey. So I have to remind myself to be patient in those journeys, in the process. If you are interested in learning how I determine what I sew, my sewing process, I just did a video in August about that. I'll pop that up here, and I'll make sure that that pops up at the end of this video. So if you want to learn how I plan out my sewing projects, how I come up with them, different things of that nature, definitely check that video out. I hope this was helpful for you all today. Let me know in the comments if anything resonated with you, some takeaways that you have. Again, check the description box for the links to the different items that I have mentioned in the video. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Stay tuned for Sunday's video. The next couple videos will be pattern test releases, so stay tuned for those. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. I greatly appreciate it. You all have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you on Sunday. Bye.